Hey friends, it's Mel. Welcome back to my kitchen and welcome back to another week's worth of dinners. I hope you've had a wonderful week. I have certainly enjoyed this first week of fall, and we even had a little bit of a cold snap here in East Tennessee. So it's time to sit back, relax, grab you a cup of coffee, some apple cider, or some sweet tea, and let me do the cooking. This week I've got some old favorites and some first times for me to share with you. The first night of the week is a favorite of my daughter's. She always likes to help me make this, and we just call it Ritz cracker chicken. And it starts with a roll of Ritz crackers and some just very basic staple ingredients. You put your roll of Ritz crackers down in a big gallon-sized storage bag and just use your hands to crush them up. And then we're going to add in about 1/4 cup of that Parmesan cheese, just the cheap kind that's in the green can. And then I like to sprinkle a little bit of Italian seasoning down in there too. I will find a recipe for Ritz chicken and link it in the description box for you. You're just going to seal that bag up, and we just shake the dickens out of it and get all that stuff mixed together. Then you're going to pour it into a little bowl that you'll dredge your chicken through. Now we're going to mix up the wet part of our dredge, and I just start with about a cup of milk, and then I always put a little bit of mayonnaise in mine, or even ranch dressing or something like that. Just gives it a little bit of a zip. And I did the part that she always hates. I took our chicken tenders and kind of took the little tendon out of them, and they just kind of shredded away to nothing. They were little tenders to begin with. But anyhow, I had fixed that up, and I salt and peppered that. And then my daughter's just dredging them through that milk and mayonnaise mixture, and then putting it over into the breading of Ritz crackers. And you're just going to put them into a well-greased casserole dish. And I've melted about 4 tablespoons of butter in the microwave, and I just drizzle that over the top of this chicken. I think there may be a recipe floating around out there called butter chicken that is a lot like this. And we're going to put that down in a 400-degree oven, and it didn't take this but 25 or 30 minutes to cook up. Now, you see me make green beans all the time. My green beans are very simple, so it's just a regular size can. I showed you about 14 ounces. I simply put salt, pepper, a big tablespoon of butter, and regular old cooking oil. If it's canola, vegetable oil, olive oil, whatever you've got. And I just bring them up to a pretty heavy boil, and then I'll cut them back just to simmer. And you can see the progression of them. I just let the water cook out of them on simmer. My daughter calls these her greasy green beans. She has loved them since she was a child, and that is her favorite way to have them. You can see how wonderful and brown those tenders turned out, and actually the bottom side of them, where they bake up, is even prettier than this side. I wish I would have thought and got you some footage of the bottom of these tenders. We've got some boxed shells and cheese, and is it really macaroni and cheese if you don't throw your slice of cheese in there on the top of them? And there's how much is left of juice in my green beans, and that is just my daughter's favorite Ritz chicken. And now we're going to move on to something I'm trying for the first time. I am wanting to make me some cast iron steak tips and potatoes. So I'm starting out, I'm just cutting up my potatoes. I'm making them a little bit bigger than I would if I was just frying potatoes like to have with pinto beans or something. I'll link you a recipe where I kind of took inspiration for this. And I'm just going to cook them up in my cast iron like I normally would. I did peel them. A lot of times I don't even peel my potatoes whenever I'm frying potatoes. But I've got some oil, and then I'm going to throw in some butter into my cast iron. while I have been chopping my potatoes. That skillet's been getting good and hot. And I'm just going to put my potatoes in there, and I try not to mess with them a whole lot once I get them in the skillet. When I first put them in, I will toss them around in that oil and butter just so they can all get coated on all the sides of them, and it will help the seasoning stick to it. So once they're all coated, again, it's simple: salt, pepper, I'm going in with some Italian seasoning and some garlic powder. And that Italian seasoning, it's so light, a lot of times instead of sprinkling it, I just put it in my hand or in my lid. And I'm just going to toss them one more time and try to get the seasonings all over those potatoes. And I am probably cooking this on about medium high heat. I want to get a real good crisp on my potatoes. So once I've got them all coated and covered, I just try best as I can to put them in one layer. And then I'm going to take my fancy lid, which is just an old pizza pan, and put over the top of them. And you can see that they've been sitting there for a while with that lid on them, and that just helps them to cook up a little bit quicker. And you can see when I turn those off of the bottom, they're so pretty and brown. So I'm just going to put that lid back on and let them cook a little while longer. And there they are again. Now, I put a little bit of water in mine. That saves me on frying potatoes a lot of times. I get busy and I'll end up where I'm like, oh, they're kind of getting a little bit too crispy and they're not soft on the inside yet. So if you would just throw just a little bit of water in there and cover them back up, that will really help your potatoes get more done on the inside without burning on the outside. Now I'm just taking them up out of this cast iron skillet. And if you remember here a while back, my husband did some steaks inside on the cast iron, and they were delicious. And I am not a griller, and I'm really not a steak cooker. I always left that to him, but I really wanted to try it after that. So I'm using a very cheap cut of meat. This is just some lean beef stew meat that I had in the freezer. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on some steak that I might ruin. So I just put some more oil in my pan, and I put the stew pieces in there, and I'm just getting them nice and brown on the outside. And then I'm going to reduce my heat just a little bit because I don't want it to burn. And I'm going to season it up just like I did my potatoes. I'm doing some salt and pepper. Once the temperature of my skillet comes down just a little bit, I'm going to throw in a couple of tablespoons of butter and let that get melted in. Now just a little bit more salt. I'm going to do a little of that Italian seasoning too. Just a little garlic powder. These are cooking up just fine, so I'm just going to get them put out in a single layer, and I'm going to grab that fancy lid again and just let them set there on a lower temperature. And I am pretty cautious about my meats. I like to check the temperatures. I didn't want to ever have any meat that's not good, and I want to make sure I try not to overdo it. So I took one of the bigger pieces and I checked the temperature in it, and it read where it needed to. And I should have went ahead and took them up at this point, but I thought, well, I'm just going to give them just a couple more minutes. So I put the lid back on. I didn't wait too long, and I cut them down a little bit more. And you can see when I took them up, they were a little bit more done than my husband likes his steaks, or steak bites on the bottom. But they were fine for me. I like mine well done. Now this would be delicious if you had a huge skillet and you could throw your potatoes back in there with this steak and get all that coated with all this grease and goodness. But my skillet was just not that big. But look at these yummy little steak bites. That's perfect for me. I don't like any pink in mine. Guys, I was so proud of myself. I'm going to splurge here in the next few weeks, and I'm going to go and buy a really nice piece of steak and see if I can recreate this. This is a yummy steak sauce that we have got at Kroger's. I just put a little bit of that over the top, and my husband really liked these too. That is YouTube appropriate, and now I'll show you how I really am. I wouldn't be me if I didn't bring out that ranch dressing with those fried potatoes, now would I? The next night, I told you we had a little bit of cool weather. This was the official first day of fall, and I was ready for a pot of homemade chili. This chili is the easiest and the best chili I've ever had. When I first got married, I don't even know if my mom helped me come up with this recipe or who, but this little Chili-O pack makes all the difference. This is my favorite chili seasoning. I just brown up about a pound of ground beef, and I'm just draining off some of that excess grease there. And if you haven't watched any of my older videos, I have to tell you, the very first video I ever put on YouTube to see if I could do it was this chili recipe. I'll leave it linked in the cards and in the description box if you want to go back down memory lane with me. It really wasn't that long ago, just a few months. Anyway, the hardest part of this recipe is opening up your cans. Once you've got your ground beef browned up and drained the grease off of it, I put in a large can of Bush's chili beans and a large can of Lucks Pinto Beans seasoned with pork. I don't rinse or drain any of that. I put in a can of Rotel, juice and all, and a tall can of tomato sauce. And then I'll fill that same can up with water and put it in. I don't remember if I told you I put onions in it, and just in case. And I will type this recipe out for you below. And then you're going to put your little packet of Chili-O in, stir it all together. That's it. I've been making this chili for almost 30 years now, and I've never variated from this right here. I love it. You can see, and we're just heating it up, trying to get it brought up to a boil. It's beginning to heat through, and I do stir it quite often because I don't want it to stick on the bottom. And it is coming right along. Once I get it up to a boil, I will just put me a lid on it, and I'll cut it down to simmer. You know, I have eaten it in as quick as 10 minutes, but this night I'd got in here pretty early, and it got to set probably a good 30 or 40 minutes before we ate supper. And it's one of those things, it's better the longer it sets. After you put it in the refrigerator overnight and have it another day or two later, it's even better. I'm fixing my husband a big bowl up. He likes his with Fritos. I just like plain old saltine crackers in mine. I am a very simple eater, guys. But I'm dishing his up here for him. He's a hard worker, so he needs a big bowl. He's not one that is real crazy about tomatoes either, or big red kidney beans, and I think that's why my husband has always enjoyed this recipe, because it has the tomato flavor, but you just have the little bitty Rotel tomatoes. I finish him off with some cheddar cheese, a big dollop of sour cream, and then I put a little bit of parsley flakes on there just to make it pretty for you guys. This was delicious, and happy fall if I haven't told you enough yet. My favorite time of the year. Now I'm going to show you how I make pork barbecue. I had a big pork loin that I put in the crock pot that morning. You can see I was gone a little longer than I expected to be, but hey, that is not a big deal. It got a little crusty on the outside. All you got to do is pull that off, and it's fine on the inside. I'm going to be putting barbecue sauce on it anyway. I thought this was still a little frozen in the inside, so I did put it on high before I left. It cooked up fine. I just threw some salt, pepper, paprika, and garlic powder on it that morning before I left. And you can see how good it shreds up. And I'm just using a cheap bottle of barbecue sauce that I got at the grocery store to moisten this up, mix it in. It's great flavor. I mean, I love Kraft barbecue sauce. Just because it's cheap don't mean it ain't good. It's sweet honey. It's very good. But I just try to put that whole bottle in there. Like I said, this was a big pork loin, but I just want to get a start on that barbecue flavor. So I just cut it down to warm, shred it, put this barbecue sauce on it. Now, I'm going to start preparing another first. Can you believe I've been cooking almost 30 years and I have never made homemade potato salad? This is a first for me. I ain't never had to make it. My mother-in-law makes the best potato salad. And between her and my mom now, she's got hooked on making it like my mother-in-law does. I thought, I've got to learn this. There's no reason that I should be buying this, deli, grocery store tater salad. I can do this. So, here's what I did. My mom told me to leave my potatoes whole and leave the skins on them when I boil them. So that's what I did. And here I'm trying to figure out, I think she has lied to me. I had a hard time with this. Some of my potatoes were a little smaller and they come apart, kind of broke up a little bit when I was checking them when they were boiling. But I had scrubbed them good and I just boiled them up and I tried to get them cool enough, to work with them. But she said if you leave the skin on and boil them whole, that the skin will just peel off a whole lot easier. And you see, the more I'm messing with them, I kind of get the hang of it, and the skin does come right off. Now, I don't remember why she told me she thought it was better to boil your potatoes whole instead of dicing them and then boiling them. I can't remember why she told me to do that, but check the comments. I will ask her, and I will leave it down in the comments why she told me to do that. I thought she was just messing with me there for a while. I thought she was trying to, give me a hard time and make this hard on me. Anyhow, I'm just putting in some mayonnaise. This is one of those recipes, I'm just guessing about amounts. Some mustard, and I like sweet pickle relish, and I do push that up against the side of my jar and try to get as much of the juice out as I can. I don't want it to make my potato salad, soupy. And I'm putting in some onion, and a good amount of salt. Potatoes really need salt, and a little bit of pepper. And I decided I would add some garlic powder. Then you just start mixing. Once I got this mixed up, this is the most important tip you can take away from today's video. To test your food on something like this as you're making it. So me and my daughter both got us a little spoonful of this, and we said it needs a little more mayonnaise. It was a little bit too mustardy. It needed a little bit more mayonnaise and some more pickle relish. And we felt like some more paprika. And of course salt. You can never have too much salt in your potatoes. Oh, and I forgot, I did add some more onion too. So I'm back at it again, round 2. Mix it all up again. Give her another test, and this was perfect. I was so proud of myself. So, lesson learned. You know, I've said I've been cooking a long time, and I did not know how to make anything when I first started cooking. I mean, my mama had spoiled us rotten. She did everything for us. And every time I try something new, I go right back to that same feeling I had when I first started cooking. Very unsure, afraid I'm going to mess it up or whatever. But you know what? Just get in there and play with it. If you mess it up, you mess it up. If you saw Fall Food Friday, I messed it up real good this week. But there ain't nothing that you can't go back and fix. Once I get my plate fixed, I have this fancy barbecue sauce. It's kind of pricey, but it is delicious. It's Kentucky bourbon from Private Selection at Kroger's. So we just use that to dress the top of it. I was so proud of myself, guys. Let me know what all you put in your potato salad. I wished I had had time to throw me some hard-boiled eggs in. Last of all, I'm bringing a very special and very simple dessert for you. This is called Impossible Pie. It's basically going to surprise you. When you put it together, you're just not going to believe how it turns out. You start out with 3/4 cup of sugar. Going to add in a half stick of softened butter. Mine was a little bit extra soft. And then you're going to put in 4 eggs. Once you get your 4 eggs in, you're going to come back in with 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And you're just going to cream all this together. I will leave you a recipe linked below. This is an old Amish recipe. I'm using pumpkin pie spice. It's called for nutmeg, but y'all know I just keep pumpkin pie spice because it has everything in it. And I'm putting in a half a cup of flour and 2 cups of milk. And then you're going to mix this in. The last ingredient is 1 cup of flaked coconut. I have prepared a pie plate that I've greased very well, and you're definitely going to want to put this on top of a baking sheet in case you have any spillage, but you pour it right in there. You'll notice there's no pie crust. I think that is the impossible part. This is just a simple, basic recipe. It's an old recipe. People didn't used to cook like we do now with all of the cream cheese and all of that sugar and all the extra stuff that we put in that is so fattening. They ate very simple, custardy pies. So this is not going to be over the top sweet, but it is so delicious. This goes in a 350-degree oven for 55 to 60 minutes. Look how beautiful that is. Now, the longer this pie sits, it will condense on itself and it bakes its own crust. It's crazy. I made this recipe for a very special subscriber of mine. She was reminiscing about her mother making this pie for them, and asked if I would find it. So Kathy, I hope when you see this, it's bringing back all those good memories. I say all the time that food just speaks to us on so many levels. Brings back good memories of when we were a child in Mom's kitchen, and I hope that you're enjoying seeing this. I wish you was here to eat a piece of it with me, and I hope you enjoy getting to see it being made in my kitchen. Guys, it's been a great week. Thank you so much for watching today. If you're a new subscriber, thank you so much for joining, and I appreciate each and every one of you being here. I hope I've give you some ideas for the next week. You guys encourage me and inspire me every week to want to find something new and try something even out of my own comfort zone. I hope you have a blessed week, a wonderful fall, and until I see you next time, I send you love from my kitchen.